Greetings, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Topic UFO. Glad to have you with us tonight. Tonight's guest is going to be Gary Thomas, and he is here to speak to us about somebody you may not have heard of, but is actually known throughout the circles of ufology, and that person is Jacques Vallee. And he has some unique thoughts, theories about the whole ET hypothesis. I think he puts it ETH. And Gary's very much into Jacques, so we're going to be talking to him about that. First, I would like to welcome all of the new viewers on Roku. As you may know, the show was launched publicly on Roku on May 16th, 2013. And since then, I think today is June 2nd, and we've picked up about 10,000 new subscribers. And it's growing at about 400 new subscribers a day. So it's just been a blessing. I tell you, this Roku has really allowed us to get out to a lot more people. I would like to let the Roku viewers know that if you'd like an easy way to keep up on the show as far as when new episodes are available, etc., there's a couple ways you can do that. You can either subscribe to Topic UFO on YouTube at youtube.com/Topic UFO, or you can go to the Topic UFO website, topicufo.com, and sign up for the newsletter. You just put your email address in there, and then you'll receive an email whenever a new episode is available. So besides that, the only thing I'd like to ask from the Roku viewers is if you can take a second and go to the Roku channel page on their website there, find Topic UFO, and give us a 5-star rating. That will really help keep us up in the overall ratings, and make it easy for people to find the channel. And, it doesn't hurt to have a good rating. So if you have a second, if you could go out there and do that, I'd really appreciate it. All right. Well, enough of that type of stuff. Let's go ahead and bring on tonight's guest. Mr. Gary Thomas, are you out there, sir?
Yes, sir. I am here.
How are you today?
Bringing me on. Doing fine.
Good.
Well.
Good. So Gary, for the viewers that have not been following Topic UFO for that long, Gary was one of our original guests way back in early 2012. Since that time, Gary and I have stayed connected, and we toss back thoughts and theories on this whole UFO thing. And Gary, you've always been a proponent, I guess you would say, of Mr. Jacques Vallee, have you not?
Yes, I have. Great ufologist in the field of UFOs. He was a man. If you know Close Encounters of the Third Kind, that movie. Late 1970s, he was the model that Spielberg used for the French scientist in that movie, and I think the character name was Lacombe, and that character actually is modeled after Jacques Vallee. So this Jacques Vallee has a great history in UFOs.
Now, and I don't claim to be a UFO expert by any means, but from your viewpoint, do you find that most people that are into ufology, do they know about Jacques Vallee? Is he a commonly known person, or is he kind of out there in the outskirts?
Well, for the old timers, those people that grew up in the 70s, in the early 80s, I think they would know Jacques Vallee. Those who got into UFOs, definitely in the 2000s and late 1990s, may not know Jacques Vallee. But if you know Jacques Vallee, you either love him or hate him, because he comes at this UFO problem with a different angle. So.
Yeah, he does have a unique angle, and to be honest with you, Gary, I can't quite pinpoint what it is he's actually theorizing. He likes to use this acronym ETH, extraterrestrial hypothesis. And one thing that I heard him say that really caught my ear was that he felt that this whole study of ufology, this whole subject of ufology, was actually a subset of something much bigger. Can you tell us about that? Have you heard him talk about that before?
Yeah, the subset. It's a difficult concept in one sense to present, but we'll give it a shot tonight and see how we go. But people usually think of the UFO problem. You come in two camps. Either they're all explained by natural objects or man-made objects, or the witness is crazy or something, or he's had some kind of psychotic event. So that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is, well, UFOs do exist, and they're from another exoplanet or another planet outside of our solar system, and they come to Earth and do things to us. And that's sort of the landscape out there. Jacques says it's like American politics. You either can vote for a Democrat or Republican, but there's no in between. Well, Jacques Vallee has he gives a third way, if you will, or a third position that sort of opens us up to new possibilities. And really, if you summarize his position, I guess you could say it's really more of a spiritual or psychic phenomenon, and it falls into that category, but it has all kinds of different tentacles that go into different areas, and maybe we can talk about some of those tonight. But again, Jacques comes up with this third position. Yeah, it is sort of hard to pinpoint him, but in another sense it's not, because basically he outlines some problems with the normal viewpoint, which is, like you said, the ETH. His, like I say, falls in more of a paraphysical or a psychic hypothesis that, yes, they do exist. He does believe in the reality of UFOs. He believes in the physical reality of UFOs. He just believes they're not necessarily space travelers, that the UFOs aren't spacecraft, nuts and bolts spacecraft that takes the alien from point A to point B, basically from there to us. So that's how I would, I guess, summarize his position, but we can get into it further.
Now, he's also, I guess, been quoted as saying that, or he feels that most of the UFO investigations that take place are very shallow, sloppy, and I guess what he's trying to say is that we tend to look at these things in either one or two camps, and we're not digging it any deeper or trying to open our minds up even further than what they are now. Is that basically what he's saying?
That's correct. And maybe we ought to give a couple of quotes and see if we can start fleshing this out a little bit. This is kind of a somewhat lengthy one, but maybe we'll explain as we go here. But I'll start here. This is from a book. He's written many books, of course, but probably one of his seminal works is a book called Messengers of Deception, which he wrote in 1978-79 period.
Mm-hmm.
And all his other books that come after that, basically, that he builds the case from the Messengers of Deception. Messengers of Deception is sort of the foundation. But anyway, I'll quote a couple of things from the book. One of the quotes he has is, he says, yes, the most clear result was that the phenomenon, he's talking about the UFO phenomenon, behaved like a conditioning response. The logic of conditioning uses absurdity and confusion to achieve its goal while hiding its mechanism. He goes on and says, why is it, I wonder, that the occupants of UFOs behave so much like the denizens of fairy tales and the elves of ancient folklore? So he's showing us that really the UFOs didn't start in 1947. I mean, they go way back. They go back to the beginning of man.
Right.
He continues with the quote, why is the picture we can form of their world so much closer to the medieval concept of Magonia, the magical land above the clouds, than to a description of an extraterrestrial planetary environment? And so then he says, I am pursuing the idea that UFOs may be a control system. And basically, he is trying to say that the UFO can be physical, but it's really on a different level. It can come and go. Really, the UFO is really doing something to us. What is it doing to us? It's changing our belief systems, and we can get into how it's changing our belief systems later. But he believes they're vehicles that really are changing us. They're changing our consciousness, and so anyway. And then he continues on. He says, "Let me summarize my position thus far. UFOs are real." So again, he believes in the physical reality of UFOs. They are an application of psychotronic technology. The Russians use that term, psychotronic. Basically, it's a device that changes consciousness. It's like a thing that changes us into an altered state of consciousness. But basically, there's an application of psychotronic technology that is, they may not be from outer space. They may be, in fact, terrestrial-based manipulating devices. He believes in a multidimensional, Rick, viewpoint of the UFO, that they don't come from out there, but they come from around Earth in a parallel reality, if you will. Mm-hmm. And he continues with the quote, their purpose may be to achieve social changes on this planet. And he documents in this book, Messengers of Deception, many groups that give credence to that viewpoint, that they change us, and they're changing social structures, even politics. Continuing on with the quote, their methods are those of deception. So UFOs don't come to us in a straightforward manner, come to us at night. They say they're from, in the 50s and 60s, they say, well, we're from Venus, we're from Mars, we're from all the, every planet in our galaxy, and then they say we're from Sirius. So they come from all these supposed different areas. But really, if you get down to it, it's really a deception, because, either you believe they come from all those places, or they're not telling us the whole truth. Continuing with the quote, it says, systematic manipulation of witnesses and contactees, so they're doing that. Covert use of various sects and cults, and one of the cults he talks about early on was it was called the HIM cult, but it ended up being the Applewhite cult, Heaven's Gate, if you remember that in the 90s.
Absolutely. That was in San Diego. Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, continuing on, they control the channels through which the alleged space messages can make an impact on the public. So they basically he's saying they're not straightforward. I mean, they are messengers of deception. They're bringing, their goal is not to say, here, let me help you necessarily. It's to change our ideas of space and time and even of religion. And,
could it be, because, the more that I look into this, the more it starts to make sense. Would you say that that Vallee is not necessarily saying that this is a religious type of experience, or but a spiritual one, which I think is completely different between the spiritual and the religious? Where does religion fit into this? Is there some type of connection there, or is this something completely different?
Well, there seems to be a connection because you get witnesses to UFO events, close encounters, that they come back and they change their religion, they change their position on God. I was once, the belief in the traditional, good God, etc., and they change it to a different position that, in a vision maybe of many gods, or that the aliens are our gods. They're the ones that planted us here. You get into that in a lot of the History Channel stuff on ancient aliens, etc. They do seem to change us, and they change things that are deep in us, not just the, oh look, I see, this object in the sky and it comes from another planet. Their goal seems to be deeper. It's almost as if they are evangelistic in their approach, but it's in a very weird way. It's not a straightforward way. They use deception. They use absurdity. They'll say things that make no sense physically. Witnesses to UFOs, close encounters, come back and say, well, I want to build this energy device, this free energy device. And Jacques Vallee interviews these people, and in his mind, he doesn't tell them this, but in his mind, he's saying, well, this device cannot work physically. So, really, what are they really about? What are they really doing to us? And it does seem to be the big questions: the belief in God, the belief in where are we going as a planet, the belief in where do we go after we die. These kind of questions that we all grapple with, since our childhood. We ask questions like that, and it's like the UFO comes into our world, wakes us up out of our our sleep, so to speak. Where we go to work, we do our thing, and we get in this mode. We don't think about the deep things, and all of a sudden something happens to us, and we think about the deep things. But
right.
For me, it should be done in a more straightforward way if you're really going to do that. But the UFOs come to us, and they're not honest with us, and they give us deceptive things. Now, Jacques, okay. Who is Jacques? Jacques is a scientist, okay? He's an agnostic. He's not a Christian. He's not a Buddhist, what have you. He is an agnostic. He doesn't know the big question, or at least he doesn't dwell on the big question, but he does interview people that have very definite religious viewpoints and spiritual viewpoints, and that they've been changed. We can get into an example or two of that, but yes, the religious thing does come into play with UFOs. I would have to say, and Jacques would agree with that. But Jacques, again, he's very methodical. He only wants to prove what he can prove empirically. He doesn't want to go to belief systems. He thinks that the UFOs are changing our belief systems, so he tries to be very safe in that.
Well, what about when it comes to ET abduction, for example?
Right.
Is because the things that happen during these abductions, or at least what the human being, thinks they experienced during these abductions, seems to be more on the level of procreation, of hybrids and all this type of stuff. Any thoughts there as far as? Yeah,
Jacques talks about. Jacques is. He thinks, to sum his position up, he thinks probably abductions are more symbolic than physical acts. However, he points out several things. The thousands of abductions. I mean, he goes through the catalogs of cases, and they're in the thousands. He said, "What are they really doing?" When I say they, the aliens, what or whatever, whoever these people are, what things are, what are they doing? Why do they use such arcane technology that leaves scars? You know, we can take, our doctors, and this is some of the things that Jacques talks about, our doctors can take blood, they can take samples and not leave scars on you. That we even have drugs that can take away our memory, and we don't remember them. However, in abduction cases, they come back scarred, they come back psychologically maimed in many cases. They grapple with this thing for, years.
All their life sometimes, yeah.
Exactly. And so if our technology is such that we can do these things to our patients without leaving these scars, why would, and most UFO believers would believe that these aliens, if they believe that they're aliens, they'll believe that they're advanced technologically. Mm-hmm. Why would their technology be such that it would leave scars, that it would leave, et cetera? What is the real deal here? I mean, Jacques thinks there's something deeper going on here. Again, he connects it with belief systems, this control, trying to, basically trying to convince us of something much deeper than just the, taking of ova or taking of blood or whatever. There seems to be something deeper going on. He also traces back. He's got another book called Magonia, Passport to Magonia, and this book talks about all the ancient occurrences of UFOs and stuff in the past. And he says abductions, all the same scenarios, the medical devices, the circular rooms, the white robed people. These things are talked about in a different setting, in a different time, and they use different words for them. They may call them fairies, or they may call them this and that. And we think of a fairy now as just a fairy tale. However, it was a real deal for people in the medieval ages in Ireland and what have you. They believed that the little people existed, that the good people, they would call them, existed. And they did these weird things. And so that can be, this abduction thing didn't start in, recently. I mean, it goes back to antiquity, but you have to uncover it in these strange stories of our past. And Jacques has done that. For those who want to get into it, can read his book, Passport to Magonia. He's written a new book about that with another guy, even recently. But
well, you know what, Gary, I could, if you looked at this UFO thing, like you said, starting from the beginning of time, and these, whatever you want to call them, aliens or other entities. Mm-hmm. It's very possible that they could have been controlling us, molding us, changing our thought patterns or whatever over time, thousands and thousands of years. Mm-hmm. It makes sense. I got to tell you, it makes sense. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but it makes sense.
It seems to, and that's the big question: is what are they really after? And we got all kinds of theories up there, but Jacques is, for those who want to jump into it, I would again suggest Messengers of Deception. Get into it and see where he comes across. But he goes into case after case and makes a very methodical case for it. That yes, I mean, he believes it's a control system. That is the real deal. Now, again, the question of who they are, he says he doesn't know. He doesn't know.
And that's what a scientist would say, right?
Yeah, it is what a scientist would say. And for a person like me, his theories make real sense because I come from, and I don't want to shock the audience or anything, but I come from a Christian perspective.
Right.
It's very, his theories fit what we would call demons and fallen angels of the past and of our present. And really, it's in my viewpoint, not something to trifle with, even if you don't believe in that perspective. You don't go out and seek these things because I mean it can be dangerous. so, because, you know, we're talking about belief systems, and
Right.
and a person should come to a belief in a studied way. I mean, we should study it, look at it, and weigh it out, and see where we come on it.
So I know that I guess Jacques was into this whole UFO thing back with J. Allen Hynek, and then I believe it was in the late 70s. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he kind of pulled out of the whole UFO thing.
Yeah,
he thought it was getting too political or too something or another. I don't know what went on there.
Yeah, it did, and it does. I mean, it is a very political realm. I mean, to be honest with you, those people who talk about UFOs and investigate UFOs, everybody has an opinion, and that's true. And they don't always present their opinion in a civil way. I mean, you know, there's very strong feelings. No, I believe this. No, I believe that. But to be honest with you, most people in ufology fall under the ETH, the extraterrestrial hypothesis. Jacques doesn't, and so yeah, I mean, he's a man that stood alone. Again, Allen Hynek, if you remember, Allen Hynek was the astronomer over Blue Book,
Right.
Project Blue Book, and he brought Jacques on board in 1963 to help him. Jacques' expertise, he delves into ufology, but his professional career is computers. He has a Ph.D. in computers, and so he knew how to write programs to catalog for the first time all these, and to find a pattern to all these sightings. And he was very, very instrumental in helping Hynek. Hynek was a skeptic, and when I say skeptic, he would come up with, well, this is swamp gas. I mean, he would throw out those ideas. Well, a scientist wants to eliminate all these things. There was an uproar when in one case in Minnesota or Michigan where he says, well, it looks like it's a possibility that they may have seen swamp gas, and there was a big uproar at that time, and it was wild. But Jacques was instrumental in showing Hynek, a skeptic, that there is a reality behind UFOs. It's a real, and they're physical. There's a physical reality, but there's also other layers to it. It may be at some point we ought to go into that layers of that we've went through in the past on your show, but that 6-layer model. But he was instrumental in convincing Hynek, wow, there is something physical. But he also too believed that the alien hypothesis didn't fit all the data, and so Hynek, and then another man named John Keel. Those three guys right there they had this third position. Really, you could say it was the paraphysical hypothesis, this paranormal hypothesis versus the aliens from another planet hypothesis. And because Jacques took that position, he was alienated by a lot of people. But also it gave Jacques the time to do real study, to delve into this UFO thing, and to go out into the field and interview people quietly and not be a part of the UFO group, but go as Jacques Vallee, the scientist, and with one or two people with him and document case by case. And he did. He's done the footwork, so to speak. That's what I like about Jacques. He can't stand alone. That's something to say about a person, that they can stand alone. That it's not popularity that pushes him. It's something else. And I mean, he's trying to find out what reality is and what's all this about. And I like that about Jacques.
Yeah, he definitely goes about this in a scientific way, which is something that I appreciate.
Yeah.
And you think about it, there aren't that many big-time scientists that will even go on the record with their feelings, their personal feelings on UFOs and ETs.
No, that's true.
So I think it's great that we have someone like him that can give us this other viewpoint. I definitely plan on looking into him more. Now, what was that book? What was the name of the book that you suggested would be the first one to read?
Messengers of Deception.
Messengers of Deception.
Yes, Messengers of Deception. And then he's got a trilogy that he wrote in the 80s and 90s, and it's out there. And it's those three books, Dimensions, Revelations, and Confrontations. That was a trilogy he wrote. But the foundation, it's interesting, the foundation was Messengers of Deception, and basically didn't change his viewpoint because he didn't see anything in the data that would have him change it. But yeah, he is a man that stands alone, and he, talking about scientists that won't be on the record, he, in 1963, came on board with Hynek. He also created something he called the Invisible College. That's another book by him, by the way, the Invisible College. It was a group of about 100 scientists. I would dare to say they're not even a quarter of that today, but about 100 scientists quietly, behind the scenes, looked into the UFO matter, and Jacques was a key man in that. He sort of organized that and kept the data going between them, and he was sort of the spokesman. He's not afraid to stand, and I like that about Jacques. He tells you what he believes, even if it goes against the grain.
Yeah, exactly. And it coming from a very intelligent man to boot.
Yes.
Well, Gary, unfortunately, we've gotten to our end here, but I definitely would like to have you back on again and go over these different layers. I know that I believe you and I talked about it over a year ago, I believe, but I would definitely like to have the viewers get a chance to see that as well. Maybe they'll look into Mr. Jacques Vallee, and then we can do another show and get a little deeper into some of his work. Now, you were writing a book at one time? Did you finish that, or is it still in the works?
No, it's a novella. It's called Blue Earth 7. You can go to my website, technoprophecy.com, and get that. It's kind of an experimental prototype novella I wrote, but it deals with the UFO question, and it's sort of a entry to the whole mystery book. It doesn't give the whole thing, but it opens the door, and that's kind of what I wanted to do with that book. It's fun, and
right. Well, we'll definitely get that up there on the screen so folks can go take a look at it.
Great, I appreciate it.
All right, well, Gary, thanks again for talking to us tonight. Like I say, it's been a long time coming to have you back on, so I appreciate your patience. And
no, you bet. I appreciate you letting me on and talk a little bit about a great man. And I do encourage people to go out and check him out and see his perspective.
Yeah, it never hurts to get another perspective, I'll tell you, because so far we haven't confirmed the answer yet, so it's still open.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, Gary. Well, listen, thanks again, and we'll be staying in touch with you.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, Rick.
Have a good evening.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Good night. Good night, everyone.
Open the door, you'll find the secret. To find the answer is to keep it. You'll believe it when you
If you have a second, if you could go out there and do that, I'd really appreciate it. All right, well, enough of that type of stuff. Let's go ahead and bring on tonight's guest, Mr. Gary Thomas. Are you out there, sir?
Yes, sir. I am here.
How are you
Thanks for
today?
bringing me on. I'm doing fine. Doing
Good,
well.
good. So, Gary, for the viewers that have not been following Topic UFO for that long, Gary was one of our original guests way back in early 2012. Since that time, Gary and I have stayed connected, and we toss back thoughts and theories on this whole UFO thing. And Gary, greetings, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Topic UFO. Glad to have you with us tonight. Tonight's guest is going to be Gary Thomas, and he is here to speak to us about somebody you may not have heard of, but is actually known throughout the circles of ufology, and that person is Jacques Vallee. And he has some unique thoughts, theories about the whole ET hypothesis. I think he puts it ETH. And Gary's very much into Jacques, so we're going to be talking to him about that. First, I would like to welcome all of the new viewers on Roku. As you may know, the show was launched publicly on Roku on May 16th, 2013. And since then, I think today is June 2nd, and we've picked up about 10,000 new subscribers. And it's growing at about 400 new subscribers a day. So it's just been a blessing. I tell you, this Roku has really allowed us to get out to a lot more people. I would like to let the Roku viewers know that if you'd like an easy way to keep up on the show as far as when new episodes are available, etc., there's a couple ways you can do that. You can either subscribe to Topic UFO on YouTube at youtube.com/Topic UFO, or you can go to the Topic UFO website, topicufo.com, and sign up for the newsletter. You just put your email address in there, and then you'll receive an email whenever a new episode is available. So besides that, the only thing I'd like to ask from the Roku viewers is if you can take a second and go to the Roku channel page on their website there, find Topic UFO, and give us a 5-star rating. That will really help keep us up in the overall ratings, and make it easy for people to find the channel. And, it doesn't hurt to have a good rating. So